Okay, so tonight, the January 7th meeting of the Northwood School Board, bills and manifests are going around. Would you care to make a comment as a member of the public?
Come on.
I'm not wrong.
Right.
School board minutes.
Move. Motion to approve minutes of 12/17/15 public minutes.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Don't think so.
All those in favor? Aye. Just a comment, so we are short 2 school board members tonight because there is a budget committee meeting going on at the same time, and so one of those members is a representative of the select board and the other is a representative of our board, are both there to finalize warrant articles. So that's why they are not here tonight.
Motion to approve non-public minutes of 12/17/15.
Second.
I'm sorry.
Any questions or comments?
No.
All those in favor? Aye. Assistant superintendent report, we don't really have one because our assistant superintendent has been on vacation and it's been the holidays, so there really hasn't been anything.
Not a lot of action, no.
You want to comment on anything? Okay, so we're done with that. Principal's report.
Wow, awesome. Moving right along, fantastic. So there's a lot of things in the packet relative to new and different things we're doing with guidance, so you can look at that, but there's a lot of leadership activity going on with our 5th grade, 6th grade, and 7th, 8th grade leadership. Miss Labella is spearheading that, so we're glad about that. There are 3 action items that were in the original packet that I'd like to ask about and ask your support for, and they're very similar to previous ones, so I'm hoping it won't be an issue, but there are 2 drama club fundraisers that were proposed from Miss Rush. One of them is selling lizards on a stick, gladiator programs, and pet rocks relative to their show When in Rome at the Winter Dinner Theater. They would like to do that. That's one fundraiser. I don't know if we want to do these in individual order to support them or not support them.
Let's just do it all together.
So the second one is a script readathon. The students came up with this idea, and it was really well received. It should say students in grades 5 through 8, not 508. They do a 4-hour readathon. Miss Rush has a ton of different scripts, and they all read a bunch of them, and they give her ideas on what ones they would want to do in the future. Plus, they're working with different techniques of practicing the readings, so that's pretty cool, and they get sponsorship, so she would like to do that one. And a third action item is for the 8th grade fundraiser to do a second round of the Little Caesars Pizza Cookie Dough fundraiser. Half the students participated the first time. It's a very lucrative fundraiser for those that participate, and they have asked to be able to repeat that one this year because it already worked well once and they'd like to do it again.
I make a motion, but before I make the motion, request that maybe you should check with the town moderator because we have a deliberative session in February. That's the 5th. And they will allow, I know Girl Scouts usually sell cookies and things at these meetings, but
Yeah, actually that was.
it'd be a good one. So I would like to be there.
Well,
And that's
that was a good
right?
funny.
yes, it's how, and also at the last meeting it was brought up about election. We have an election coming up very quickly, and to,
In March.
It's
In February, the one in February, yeah.
but the primary is coming up in February, so it's another opportunity. Certain hours if they want to do some fundraising.
Okay.
And that's all through Hal. Hal, he'd be the contact for all
Yes.
that.
Motion to
Awesome.
approve the fundraising proposals for the 8th grade.
Second.
Any questions or concerns? All those in favor? Aye.
Awesome, thank you. I made mention of a partnership with Kathy Frankor, the owner of Ma's and Mine, the restaurant that was destroyed by the fire in October. She's been fantastic, and she's been working with us, and I really do need to give her a shout out because we had reached out to her to try to support her rebuilding of her business in a new location, also on Route 4, by working with us to support our teachers during a giveaways session that we did prior to vacation for team building. And in return, she actually supported us more so by paying for the whole meal, which wasn't our original arrangement. And she's just wonderful to work with, and she is very supportive of the school and values the experience her daughter's having here. So I did want to publicly give a shout out to Maz and Mine, and to encourage everybody to stop by their new location. It's bigger and better, and she loved the business, and we love to support her. The next part is the IBAS survey, the Adequate Public Education Input-Based Accountability System survey. There's a visiting team that's coming to the school next Wednesday on the 13th, and we have developed a schedule for them to visit the school, and they're really just looking to see what we do well, what we need support for, how they can help us, what needs we have, and the general procedures are listed in the packet. And I also have in an update packet that I will give to our note taker here to put in actual schedule, a physical schedule of the events. But we would like to cordially invite the board to participate in a 15-minute session. Most of the sessions that they would like us to run are about 15 minutes with different groups of people, parents, students, teachers, support staff, and the support from the school board is scheduled for 9:15 to 9:30. I can send that out in an email because I know members aren't here, but for anybody who would be available on the school board from 9:15 to 9:30, we'd love to have you participate in that session. It's the 13th, January 13th, next Wednesday, 9:15 to 9:30. And I'll send that out in an email, and it will be in the minutes for this meeting as well. But the schedule basically runs from 8:10 to close to 1 o'clock, and they're just 15-minute sessions with a variety of people. So it's a tight schedule, but we're looking forward to it, and we think it's going to work well. And then there's another upcoming January dates for Northwood session. There's a whole bunch of dates, and they're going to be coming out in the Laker, which is going to come out tomorrow. But there's a lot of different dates, and we've tried to update everything. One of them that I want to remind you of for one final time is this Saturday, the Flapjack fundraiser in Concord at the Applebee's on Loudon Road for the 8th grade trip. They are doing that off-site, but it should be a great fundraiser if people can go, and encourage families to attend that event on Saturday morning. And January 21st is a really busy day for us. We have our spelling bee on January 21st for grades 4 through 8 in the morning. We have an internet safety presentation in the afternoon. That's a SAU-wide presentation, and we also have the presentation for parents that evening. It is also the night of a board meeting. We're working with 3 other schools to coordinate that. It's a district-wide event. So we got our preference for the daytime, but it didn't work out for us for the nighttime to have it on a night that wasn't in conflict with a board meeting. So you all got a flyer for it, and I just encourage you to spread the word to anybody who might want to go. She is nationally known and has been on the Meredith Vieira show, and she's been on CNN, and she's been on a bunch of different things, but it's Katie Leclerc Greer. It is a presentation that was arranged by folks at Nottingham as a collaborative effort for all 4 schools, Co-Brown, Northwood, Nottingham, and Stratford. So the evening presentation is open to parents of any students, any age, and it is only parents 18 and over that are allowed to attend. Younger kids are not allowed to attend, but there is daycare provided for free. So that's a big plus. They have snacks, and they have daycare provided for free for those who want to go on that night. And then grades closing. Grades close at the end of the month. So that's a bunch of dates, and they'll be out in the Laker. The other thing I just want to mention is a few updates from Mr. Tom that weren't in the original board packet. Whole bunch of stuff happening through Christmas break. The building looked absolutely fantastic. You could eat off the floors, they were so shiny. But currently we are down 2 staff members in the custodial team as of late. So we have openings, we've gotten some applications, and we're interviewing to fill those positions, but they are understaffed and will be until we can get those filled. But a lot of things were happening, and the list of the things that the custodial crew did will be shared for the minutes in the report. But kudos to the staff for doing all the work that they did for the building. And the last piece is the tech update. There's a couple of technology pieces. We're finishing up setting up for Smarter Balance, and we're working on a Lost and Found website. And the other piece that I'm pretty excited about to give you is there's a line number expenditure options page. It's come up recently that there's some extra unexpended funds in the technology lines, and there are a lot of reasons for that. 2 of the biggest reasons are, one of which is that some of the items were purchased in advance with some money that became available last year. And the other reason is that a lot of the items were either not necessary because We had budgeted for certain services that were actually given to us for free because they ran free trials and they ran some programs where they no longer were charging for certain things that they used to charge for. And costs of certain items went down. So when you're forecasting 12 to 18 months in advance, you put in certain prices. Document cameras, for example, were initially put in at $500. We can get them now for $275. So you are given a sheet of the budgeted expenditures that have all the items per line, what was allocated for them, and the items and what was spent, showing you where the pluses and minuses are. The second page is unanticipated, so they were things that we hadn't budgeted for but have money to cover. That's listed in there, and the line items are listed at the bottom, and it shows you what's remaining. Generally speaking, we're going to have about $34,000 left over in the tech lines, roughly. That's anticipating most, if not all, of what we have for the rest of the year. And there is a page that's listing items that are not being purchased and why. For example, we had $12,000 of interactive whiteboards that we were projecting, and we used funds from a previous year. A couple other things, no subscription payment was needed for a certain service because we got it for free because they needed to make amends with us on AimsWeb for some issues we had last year. So that's all listed out for you, of all the reasons. This is for you to review and for you to look at, and there are some options that are suggested, 3 different options that involve 3 different processes if you wanted to do something with that $34,000. One of them, option 1, is spending down the budget with new and different items that could be purchased that are of need but not urgent. The next one is using the funds to just lower the proposed budget. If you wanted to, at the deliberative session, make a motion or move forward in the direction of actually saying you wanted to lower the budget for certain reasons. And the third one, which is the one we recommend, is a combination of both. Buying some things that were unforeseen that we do need, but then also being able to pull money off of the budget that we don't need to spend because of prior expenditures or expenditures that we didn't need. So it's information for you all to look at. It's information for you to review. You'll have time before the next meeting to do that, and then you can make a decision on how you want to handle that. But we wanted to give you as much of that, and it's as current as we know it based on figures that we've used from the SAU. A few things may fluctuate a little bit here and there, but it'll give you a general idea of roughly how much you'll have left and some options on what we could recommend doing with it.
Do you have anything else?
Nope, that's all I
So
have.
I have 2 things. One, in terms of the internet safety thing, I think it should be noted that 3 of 5 board members have children in this school, and I'm sure would be very interested in attending that event, and unfortunately won't be able to because we will be here at our board meeting, and I would like to make a request that it be taped for the benefit of all community members who are unavailable to attend and have that available. I think it's a really important thing, not just for people in the school community, but in our Northwood community, and that coupled with the fact that it is being scheduled on a board meeting, and our board meetings they don't change. So I think that's something that I would request that the school do.
And I'm disappointed too because I'll be at the board meeting as well, so I will miss it. Her literature says that we're not allowed to tape without her permission. I will speak directly to her to see if she can grant us that permission for those reasons that you've outlined.
And then in terms of this technology budget, I'm having a really difficult time following what's here. It's very unclear in the way this is all presented. What's going? There's all different colors and there's no key.
So I can go through just a couple of different hints to do this because I went through it with Steve so that I would understand it and be able to share with you how it was laid out. What he did was he took every line item and he took the amount that was allocated, the amounts that were in the budget lines that were allocated in those certain budget lines, and he looked at what was actually spent out of those budget lines and for what purposes, and then he let you know where he fell in terms of what was anticipated in the budget for the items and what was actually spent from the budget for the items, so that you can see any of the green numbers are pluses, any of the red numbers are minuses. So If you look at the numbers, it will show you that we are under or over in certain categories because we were budgeting, for example, $30,775 at the bottom of that first page for replacement computers and only spent $21,140. And again, that's probably because they either came in less or there was no shipping and he had anticipated shipping. And so we have an unexpended amount of $9,635 in that line. On the second page, he listed out the line items. There was no money allocated in those lines for these particular items, so he's just showing that there wasn't anything in the budget for those lines, but they were necessary. For example, an MMS training, because of a change in staff, was required, wasn't previously budgeted for, so he needed to pay for that. So those were items that were unanticipated when the budget was developed, but he still needed to spend them.
Take one step backwards here. This is this year.
This is
Like
current,
your
right now,
current
15-16, yes.
Okay.
Currently 15-16. It had come up in previous board meetings that there was money in the lines that people were
That's fine.
seeing that wasn't spent, so that's why we developed this list to show you why it's there and where it came from. So again, there's totals on what was spent and what was needed. So at the bottom, he shows what was allocated, and that matches what the board has, the budget has as totals that were allocated for each of those lines, and it shows what was remaining in each of those lines. So there's a total remaining in those lines based on what was budgeted for and spent, and what was unbudgeted for and spent. The money that's remaining is money that's remaining in those accounts that is not anticipated to be needed or spent this year. And it's about $34,000. So one thing that was important that I wanted to make sure you all had was that third page that says items that were budgeted but not being purchased. And I wanted you to know why there was a certain chunk of money in the budget that didn't end up getting spent. And there were reasons that changed over the course of the 12 to 18 months. The top line was the printer warranty. We got a new contract with Conway to cover our printers. So we didn't have that when we initially proposed the budget, but we did end up acquiring that, which saved us $720 because we don't need to spend that for printing. Same things following down the bottom, the Ames Web, or the middle, the Ames Web. We forecasted $25.80 for Ames Web, but because we had problems with Ames Web the prior year, they're giving us a free year of service to be able to maintain our contract with them. So we don't have to pay that money out to them. So this page totals items that were budgeted but not being purchased. So that's showing you a savings of $25,000 from the tech lines.
For Angela, though, they gave us a free year last year as well, then?
No.
Because we did allocate that money to, as a stipend for...
We allocated the money as a stipend to the manager to do the work. And we initially were saying that we were going to actually use that money to pay out that stipend, but that stipend can't technically come from that line because you can't use an expense line to cover a salary. So the salary is going to come from another line. It can't be subtracted from the tech line, but when the ultimate budget pages are done, the belief is that that is what's covering that extracurricular stipend.
I guess we just have to keep that in mind when we're looking at the bottom line
Yep.
of this, is that we've already spent
Correct,
some
yes.
of this money.
Yep. And then the options were, it just depends on what you folks want to do with that money and what you think the town wants to do in terms of what options you look more heavily at. We are recommending option 3, which is a combination of the two.
How can we, so option 2, this applies both option 2 and option 3, we can't take these funds and lower the budget for the 16-17 year. We can't carry that money over.
Yeah. You cannot carry that money over. However, after you've had lots of time to digest this and email any questions before the next board meeting, one of the options that you do have, if you feel comfortable after you've really gone through this, because it's a lot to go through, is you can reduce at the deliberative session if you feel that that's appropriate.
Reduce the 16-17.
You can reduce to 67.
But this is with money that's...
For
How can we
advanced,
reduce that?
for advanced purchases.
There's two issues here.
Yeah.
I think there's 3 issues here. One is that we underspent last year's budget by a significant amount of money, which is not boding well for us for next year's
That's all right.
budget.
Yep.
In this current year budget, we're now once again saying, oh wait, we didn't need all the money we asked for.
Right.
And so we either have to put a plan in place to spend. Supposedly, we now have accurate visibility to to what there will be to spend. And the third issue is that we're being told that we apparently over budgeted it for next year.
Okay. So it's not that we're using some money for this time next year, it's just adjusting our budget
It's not adjusting,
going forward.
potentially,
Yeah.
option 2 here is
Yeah.
adjusting next year's budget, which we just, a month ago, not even, put in front of the budget committee for approval.
We did. And there's money here, including items that can be purchased ahead of schedule. Some things can't be purchased ahead of schedule. A lot of this has to do with annual subscriptions and such, but there are items that can be purchased ahead of schedule that could be purchased this year with the remaining money that could lead to a reduction request for the budget going forward for 16-17. And those items are listed in that middle of option 2, and they're listed also in the middle of option 3. Lots to digest. You all can look at it.
So you're going to purchase the stuff ahead of schedule.
You
And
can, and
reduce our budget for
that's
next
how
year
we
versus
could
what
reduce
we're
the
gonna
budget
do.
for next year, is to purchase the things that are in next year's budget
Yep.
now,
Right.
based on the fact that we know that we have access to that money, that we wouldn't be spending for other things, looking at the rest of the year. And then, it could reduce the budget for next year if we needed to do that.
So my concern is this is in isolation looking at one part of the overall budget. This is technology.
Yep.
I'm sure there are plenty of other things in this building that is needed that perhaps weren't budgeted for. And I can't make decisions based on just technology alone. I personally don't feel comfortable with that. I would expect to look at the spend in this building holistically. And if there's money available, it should be looked at holistically, not in terms of technology. And I have to say, this is very concerning to me. This is snowballing in a way, and frankly, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed based on this information for what I, as a Northwood school board member, put forward to the budget committee and now putting forward to our community to vote on. So we need to make sure that this gets emailed out because we have 2 board members not here today and they need to have this as well. And we're gonna have a serious discussion at the next meeting about this and what we want to do. And I don't think it's appropriate to have that conversation tonight because the 3 of us that are here haven't had any opportunity to digest this, and I'm having a really hard time following what's here the way it was presented. So unless anybody has any other questions or comments about it, please review it. If you have questions while you're reviewing it, please email them so we can try to get them ahead of time. And if we're going to spend time delving into technology here, then I would expect that the technology directors at the next meeting.
I did meet with Dr. Godomsky, and we went through these materials, and it was decided that it was the best idea to give you this to digest. And technology was something that was questioned at the Saturday session that we have. So this is a response to that and the need for more detail about the technology expenses. That's why it's only technology oriented.
Well, I hope that if the technology director can be here at the next board meeting, he can be more articulate about the questions around the budget than he was with the budget committee.
That will be shared with him.
Madam Chair, I would just like to make sure that we have, you have option 1, option 2, option 3. I don't want any more, well, these are wish lists, we maybe could do this next time. The next meeting, I want to be able to say, okay, you tell me what you need or feel you need, and we can make decisions. But I don't want it to be, well, but if we don't do this one, but we might want to do that one. I want to have a more concrete, that's all.
I agree completely.
I'm glad that they're doing this and they're finding things and they're coming up with something, but then give us a concrete, what you think we really should do and we need.
Yes,
Okay.
I completely agree. We've been down this road before where there was a wish list and then it changed 7 times, and after votes were taken, more things were said, oh, but we could have this. We need to get this squared away.
So it's too bad we couldn't have this last month or earlier.
Anything else?
Nope, we're all set. Everything, that's it.
Okay, so we have a number of policies for first reading. Our school board member who is on the policy committee isn't here to give us any kind of background on them. Scott, unless there's stuff that you want to say, my comment is this is first reading, so Keith, for you, I don't know if we've done any policies since you've been on the
For a
board.
while.
So what happens is there's a first reading and then a second reading, and then after the second reading, we vote to put them into practice. So
So are these policies that are new or
They're updates,
modified?
or updates.
and
So
go
every,
ahead, sorry.
So in the spring and the fall, we get updates from the School Boards Association. We generally try to start working those over the summer and fall, and then we stop for budget season because we're
Yeah, I think we got
busy
one.
doing other.
More
Right,
important.
right. So these are policies that Mr. Janvivar, Ms. Daypre, and I reviewed in the fall based off the fall update. So the one new policy that I can see that jumps right out at me is JVAB, which sort of aligns
So-
with current trends.
So first reading is just we have a discussion tonight on these things, and then there's a second reading.
No, actually, the first reading, you can have a discussion if you choose to, although you don't have somebody to have you sort of want the three of us here to have that discussion.
Yep.
And Tim's not here. Or you can just take it, formulate your questions, and then come back during second reading and question things, and then we can modify things there.
So this is more of just a presentation, the first reading is a presentation of the policies, and the second reading, we discuss them more.
So what I would recommend, David, let's do it.
Go ahead.
So what we,
Go ahead.
sorry.
I have 3 questions on 3 policies, and they're minor.
So what I was going to suggest was, for Keith's benefit, is that unless there was something specific, like Dave's looked at them and has some specific questions, we'll talk about those so we can make sure we have answers
Right,
for the
I would
next
like to
meeting
talk about
for
it
you.
tonight.
But barring anything specific that you had, everybody should make sure that you go through, if you haven't already, and at the next meeting, if there's edits or recommendations, we should present those to then go out for the second reading. And then following that, we would vote. And we'll try to, I'm guessing we're gonna try to get back on our schedule of regular policy review at every meeting. Go ahead.
Page 25, bottom right-hand corner, which is policy GBA. I would change the word employment to employment.
Which page?
Page 25 on the bottom, right-hand corner. That was a minor one for that one. You got it? Okay. Page 47. We got a lot of pages here tonight. Page 47. I guess my question is admission of resident students. I believe this should be, somewhere in there would say for K to 12. Because we do have a policy, even though we're not, the high school is not, we have a policy for people, to residents to come. It just says for new residents. And I felt like, okay, I'm going to Cole Brown, that's completely different. So for me, it does it, it's not different. So I guess I just felt, I didn't understand as a parent what grade. So I'm just thinking somewhere K to 12 should be in there. I don't know.
Just put in the title?
Pardon me? Admission of resident students. I don't know where to put it. I just was reading things and said, oh, wow, what students? So K to 12 in the first line or somewhere in there. That's
Or we can put it in the title.
Yeah, that's fine.
And actually, it should be pre-K to 12.
Pre-K, oh, all right.
Right.
Pre-K, see?
Yeah.
Well, you passed the test. I was trying to sneak that by.
This may be a really silly question. What other students would there be outside of pre-K to 12?
Well, that is sort of the implication is that.
I wasn't thinking of
Or
pre-K because it's a different thing, but they have to be a resident. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
That's all, just.
There wouldn't be any other residents pre-K to 12.
And then I had a question on page 61, and we're really going to need big discussions on this one, but not tonight. My question is, for concussions and head injuries, as I read through this policy, are we ready as a school? I mean, there's one paragraph down at the second from the bottom. all coaches, including volunteers, will complete training as recommended and provided and stuff, so.
There's a free online training that they can just log right into and take, and then print a certificate, and then we have it on file.
Right.
So you are ready for that.
We are ready for that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, now I'll bring up just because as I was reading it, including volunteers, I have in the past, I always say, I see somebody sitting on the bench that's not noted anywhere in our meetings that's helping the coach. And I hope that we have a bunch of volunteers, but I don't want to show up and then we have somebody sitting there because his son or daughter plays and he's knowledgeable in the sport, and then something happens and that person, everybody in the stands thinks that he's a volunteer, she is a volunteer. I'm just trying to protect us. So I just want to make sure everybody is ready. And you're saying that it's easy to take the test. Are we sure that they took the test and do we see the results?
We can check into
Yeah,
that.
that's all.
We should be able to. Is that?
Yeah.
I have one, actually, on page, I mean, this is for the second reading, so I'm going to shut up if need be. On page 40, the GBEBD, Employee Use of School Networking Websites, page 40. The very last paragraph says staff members should not use social media websites for school class-related purposes. I guess I just disagree with that. It's like, I could see that being. I can see that being a useful way of parents communicating.
And I think you know that I do.
communicating with parents.
So here's what we can do, is we had a very similar discussion in another school district recently, and we actually modified the policy in such a way that allowed the use of social networking for educational purposes.
Sure.
So why don't we table that policy? What was the policy number?
GBEBD.
GBEBD, and review the other school district's policy.
I like how it says MySpace. MySpace is so 10 years ago.
Yeah, well, these are, I understand, but the issue is these come out of the School Boards
No, I know.
Association.
Yeah.
And MySpace does still exist.
Does it
I
really?
think, yeah. And,
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of other teachers having like a Twitter account with all their parents' follow, so they can post stuff that they've been doing and stuff. And it seems like a good idea to me. But
it is a good idea. So, all right, we got that. So we're gonna put all of them back on except for GBEBD, right?
Any other questions or comments now?
No, I'm all set.
I mean, go from all back on as well.
It'll be on our agenda next
The
meeting,
GBEBD will
except
come.
for that one.
That'll go back to
Later.
policy committee.
And they'll come back, okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna need a motion to approve first reading.
Do we?
Yeah.
So you want me to just do each one individually?
Can we do?
Or all together?
You can do them, it's
All
really,
together we can.
you can do them all, but you wanna say all of the policies presented except for
Okay.
GBEBD.
GBEBD.
D.
You want,
G.
oh, that's the next one. God, you want me to say that? Make
You can call it by
a,
name.
make a motion to approve all the policies first reading presented to us tonight in the budget, except in the minutes and in the agenda. I know I catch that word. Except for GBEBD, we would table that one.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Superintendent's report.
We have a personnel report on page 66 and 67, and after we get through page 66 and 67, I have an informational one for you also. And we can go into non-public to discuss that if you'd like.
Okay.
We can do it at the end.
Sure, we're actually, somebody want to make a motion?
Do you,
Do we need to?
Well, it's got-
or do you want to have some questions? Do you have any questions that would belong in non-public before you accept it?
Well, you're gonna,
I'm sure I do, but do we need to wait to vote to get those questions answered? Is it
Well,
going to
right,
change
it's gonna
anything?
change, I think, probably not, right? None.
We're gonna, all right, I'm just saying, I got a non-certified personnel resignation that we approve.
Which page are you
You
on?
said-
66 on the bottom, so we would,
Oh, sorry, I was second, I was ahead of you.
66 on the phone?
66 on the bottom, page
Oh,
66 on the
yeah.
bottom right-hand corner.
Oh, yeah, we're talking about the same thing here. Sorry, I was
Okay.
on a different page, so.
Then we want to have that discussion
That's a-
first.
That's a matter
So,
of preference.
I would like to have a non-public to
Okay,
discuss,
that-
but
no
I don't
problem
think
for
that,
me.
but I don't think that means that we can't still vote to
Right.
accept the resignation.
I was
Okay.
actually
If
going
you're
with
comfortable with
yeah.
that, it doesn't change.
Okay,
right?
whatever works. Come on, speak up. I was told to get you to talk a little tonight.
We approve the resignation of Kenny Davis, Director and Director. Motion to do so.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me, aye.
And the one I passed out is just really informational. It's a transfer from a paraprofessional position to a net tutor position. Both are already budgeted for. The administration has had a difficult time filling the net tutor position. It's gone on for a number of months. And did volunteer. Ms. Hassett was previously trained as a net tutor and is asked to be transferred back to that position.
Mr. Ring, do you have a copy of that extra contract? Thank you.
And you have,
You can actually pass it out.
Yeah.
and we would approve.
Yeah.
Where is it?
Thank you. Yeah.
Did you get one? No, all right, sorry, maybe you didn't.
Question?
Very skippy.
Yeah, we would approve this pending the required, whatever.
Com
it is,
training.
Com training,
She's had it.
okay,
She just needs to redo
She's
it.
just recertified.
okay.
It's the start date, it was put there for the start date purposes, she just needs to have the training before she can officially start in that capacity.
Okay, as long as you guys are comfortable with it. Make a motion to approve Sandra Hassett as a neck tutor at $11.34 per hour. She's a para 2, step 2.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
On page 68 to 86 is some feedback from the curriculum director for your information.
Yeah, that's good.
On G, small letter I, 3 I's, 2016, 2017 is just a proposed budget for your information and the warrant articles.
Just with regards to the warrant articles, the budget committee tonight is reviewing, they had voted on all of our warrant articles with the exception of the two related to the contract, so that's what they're discussing tonight in addition to some town business, so.
Are they going over Article 10 again? Change the word now?
That was
Yeah,
the last vote.
The last. Yeah.
Did they have to?
Curriculum director. I don't know if they're.
Is that gonna be presented to them yet? Because we re-voted on it, didn't we?
I don't know, but I can certainly stop by on the way out and double check,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. Just any new business, any,
Ratified contract.
oh, sorry. So, the last meeting or 2 meetings ago, we voted on the dollar amount for the two contracts, the para contract and the teacher contract. We did not vote to ratify the contracts themselves. So I know those were emailed out to everybody, I believe, earlier this week. Hopefully everybody has reviewed them, and we need to vote tonight to it.
Okay, I'll just pass it around.
Oh. Does anybody need a copy? Okay, so can I get a motion then?
We'll take one at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do we have to do?
Make a motion for the
Motion to
NESPA.
ratify the NESPA contract.
Second.
Any questions or concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to approve the contract for the teachers, I gotta say currently, between Northwood School Board and the Northwood Teachers Association. Second, anybody? Sorry.
Questions or comments?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anything else for new?
I didn't, I don't think.
You good there?
Yep.
So last meeting at our old business videotaping, we were given, I don't know if that policy is the right word, we were given, huh? Yeah, we were given, draft, I guess, releases for both staff and for parents regarding the notice for directory information and whatever we had a public hearing on last time, that thing. So because.
Audio and videotaping in the classroom.
Yes, thank you. Because we hadn't had a chance to review these drafts, we had agreed that we were going to review them and come back tonight to vote to accept them. So did anybody have any questions or concerns about them? They're on page 118 and 117. Okay, somebody care to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve notice for directory and information photograph and video release.
Any questions or concerns? All those in favor? Aye. So, parking lot items, the calendar, the 2016-2017 school calendar, we were supposed to.
We have a meeting, yeah, we have a meeting set up, it's Thursday. It was changed so many times, but whatever that 2 week, a week from today? 14? Yeah, a week from today. I lost track, but it's, yeah. So next Thursday.
So there's a meeting on the calendar though to move that forward. Okay, great. And then insurance bids, we had talked about the insurance for the building, looking at exploring other options, getting some bids to make sure we were still paying a competitive rate for that. So I don't know where that stands, but if we could please have an update on that at the next meeting.
Okay.
And everything else was.
Well, the developed school board timeline calendar, did we have that adequately, or is this a whole?
Oh,
we have to
right.
do on there?
Thank you, Keith, that wasn't on there. We didn't have that on the agenda, and I don't think it's a copy.
Spring?
There's no copy in our packet. No, what Keith was talking about, remember we put together a calendar for us as a board
right.
of, when we start the budget and all that other stuff, and it got forgotten off the agenda,
Okay.
because we had a draft, and there was definitely a lot of stuff I think that all of us would have changed,
Yeah.
and we didn't need things listed every single month, that sort of thing. And we were gonna revisit it tonight and make changes. It's not in our packet, and I completely forgot about it as an agenda item. So if we could please just make sure that's on the agenda for our next meeting as well.
Yep. But once we do that, we'll take us off the parking lot, as well as the rest.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Anything else? Any other old business? Okay, so next upcoming meeting is January 14th at 7 o'clock at Town Hall. Please remember it is at Town Hall. Is that right? Town
It's a
Hall?
budget meeting. The budget presents the.
Oh, sorry.
The budget committee presents the
Sorry.
budget to the town.
Yeah, I was on a different meeting.
That's at 7 o'clock, you said?
That's at 7 o'clock at Town Hall. It's the school. It's the public hearing. Our next regular board meeting is January 21st at 6:30 here. The joint board meeting is January 25th. Remember, it's at 6:15. February 4th here is at 6:15 p.m. is our deliberative session.
That's the school board meeting? because
Yep.
that's when the school board meeting would be scheduled.
Yep,
Yes.
so that,
Oh, you know what, if we could, sorry, Dave,
Hey, no, go ahead.
for our next agenda, we need to finalize the slides that what and how we're gonna present for the deliberative session on all the warrant articles in the budget.
Does 6:15 sometime soon?
The deliberative session is 6:15.
then for the agenda, next time is a note at the bottom. If we're gonna have the deliberative session when we have a regular school board meeting scheduled, I feel it imperative, we got a bunch of things coming up besides
Schedule another
to have another meeting or plan to stay a little later. Now, sometimes that'll get done early, sometimes 9:30, and we won't wanna meet
I think,
afterwards, so.
Can
I
we,
think-
can we pick a date
Yeah.
at our next meeting when we have all 5 of us
Yep.
together?
Yeah. It's easier to schedule a date than cancel if we have to.
So the deliberative session's here in the, right here?
Yeah, in the gym.
No, it's in the gym.
I think I remember, didn't we usually post a meeting for directly after the deliberative session if you needed it?
We can, but we probably have, but if it's late, we're not gonna wanna stay. If we get out of here at 9:30, 10 o'clock.
We didn't do
So-
that last year.
No, we didn't last year.
So, at the next meeting.
So we just need to pick a.
Discussion of an extra meeting, if we need one, I think we do, but we'll see what everybody wants.
Look at the deliberative session, and then what's next week then?
Hearing, budget hearing.
Public hearing.
The budget committee will present, that's their budget now, it's not ours. So they will present the budget, the public will come and make comments about the school,
But there's no
the budget
voting.
committee's school budget.
There's no voting at that point.
Correct.
No,
Well,
it is backwards, but you know, I think backwards.
you mean at the budget hearing, there's no
No
voting?
public voting.
Right.
But there's.
They make comments, they look at the budget.
Thank you. Getting confused.
So the 18th is second regular meeting of February, the 22nd of February at 6:15 is another joint board meeting. And then March 8th is voting day, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at
Town.
St. Joe's.
Well, what was the one that's the primary voting, which is February something, it's the 9th or
It's the
something?
first, is it the first Tuesday in February?
I think so,
Or the second Tuesday?
second Tuesday. Whatever, I mean, it doesn't involve us here, but it's just
Public
nice to have
service
it down in
announcement,
public
there is
service.
a primary, the first of the nation primary coming up sometime in the beginning of February. Please all get out and
Gee, if you
vote.
haven't heard anything or read about it.
Regardless of your political views, please vote. Okay, so we do need a non-public session, so before we go into that, any closing public comments?
I am Sharon Forward, 10 Lower Camp Road. We just wanted to let everyone know, losing our custodial staff, having trouble, with our neck tutor, and finding someone to replace them, and as well as losing our part-time curriculum director. We are all very concerned over that, and, it does mean a lot to us, and just wanted to let you know that we're all very concerned about that, and as a caring staff, and just, that's it.
I appreciate your concern, and I would think that, and speaking for myself, and I suspect my fellow board members, we are equally concerned. And,
Yes.
yeah,
That's it. Thank you.
thank you. Oh, actually, sorry, did anybody else have any closing public comments? If I could, let's chalk it up under new business. So thank you for that reminder about the staffing. I don't know where all of these positions, particularly the custodial position, has been posted, but if we're not using job sites like Craigslist and NH Jobs, then we should absolutely, those are perfect sites to be posting these kinds of positions. And something else that I would leave to the maybe to the administration to think about is I probably will regret saying this because I'm sure there's some reason why it's not possible because of contractual issues and whatever, but something to think about would be some sort of referral bonus, and maybe it's not for positions that fall under the CBAs, but for I don't know, custodial type positions. So
Those are
that's
covered under this.
they are covered under. See, I knew there'd be some reason why it wouldn't But maybe there's something creative, that could be done to help
I will tell,
incent people to refer qualified talent to the building.
yes, and we actually spent about a fair amount of time yesterday, 4 of us brainstorming possible options, and we'll be continuing.
And
with discussions.
I would be happy to help with that, just from a human resources standpoint. Obviously, my world's a little bit different than the school world in terms of what you can and can't do because of contracts, but, you know, I've done certain things at other organizations, and I'm happy to lend some expertise to that. So thank you for actually bringing that up.
I mean, we did find that we get a lot of mileage from advertising on the signboard for custodial. That's where we get most of our applicants, either from referrals or from the signboard. And we've made a point to keep those messages up longer. So you may have seen that those haven't changed. I think I got 8 applications in the last 4 days. So I'm not sure the quality of those applicants yet because we're going through those, but we have gotten a strong response from using the signboard on the road from drive-bys.
And I know we have a staff member's son working over his break helping out, so that was kind of cool to see tonight. Thank you. Anything else?
And if the town gets a brand new bulletin board, they can put it on that.
Are they going for
It'll
that?
be all computerized that they're going for.
Are they really going for that?
Anything else? Okay, so if we could get a motion to go into non-public, please.
Motion going to non-public under
91 something, it's usually, well, it used to be on the RSA 91-A, semicolon 3.
Keith? Aaron, yes, Dave.